What's up everyone, Pierre from Into Fly Fishing, and we've got a cracker for you today. In this video we'll be looking at 7 of our favorite Euro nymphing rods. Now all of us have either fished or tested one of these rods, so what we're going to do here is give you a rundown of what we love on each one of these beauties. This is not going to be a complete review of these rods. We've done a review on each one of them except the Sage ESN. We'll link to the review of each of these rods in the description down below. Now right before you bite my head off, I must point out that these rods all sell at different price points. So not all of them, for instance, sell at $1,000, which we think is fair because not everybody has $1,000 to spend on a rod. A safe bet for a 7 best fly rod video will probably be choosing the 7 most expensive rods, but that's not what kind of video this is. What we're trying to do is share with you the rods that we love, that we've personally fished or owned or tested, sharing what we love about these rods so you can make a better informed choice. Unfortunately, we haven't tested all the rods in the world yet, but if you want to find out what our 7 favorite rods are, please stick around and sit back and relax. As a disclaimer, I must point out that most of these fly rods were sent to us by manufacturers or suppliers, but we are in no way obligated or influenced to say things about the rod that we don't feel is true. So if the rod really sucks, we're not influenced to say or hide certain things from you. Luckily, this isn't the case of any of these 7 rods. I just wanted to put it out there. Just to give you a breakdown of the structure of this video, we'll first look at the 7 rods, our favorite rods, and share our thoughts on it. Whereafter we will look at the key aspects that you need to consider when buying a new Euro nymphing rod. Obviously, as mentioned before, we haven't tested all of the rods out there, so there certainly are rods that are equal or even better to these 7 rods that we're mentioning here. In this way, and with that information, you can make up your own mind and just look at certain things to make sure that you buy the best rod for the money. The first dedicated Euro nymphing rod that I ever bought was this, the Echo Shadow 2 10-foot 2-weight rod. I probably have a soft spot for it due to this reason, but I think it is a very affordable and well-performing rod for the angler that is looking to probe into the world of Euro nymphing, especially if they're considering competing. It has most of the characteristics that you would want to see on a modern Euro nymphing rod, but at a really affordable price point. I think that it's currently retailing in the region of $290 or $280, which makes it the most affordable rod on our list. Some of our favorite features on this rod is that it's really light. For this 10-foot 2-weight version, it only weighs 2.8 ounces. It also comes with a solid cordial recovered tube and a rod sock. The blank has a matte carbon finish which reduces rod glare and flash on the water. And another really neat feature that we enjoy is that this first stripper guide is placed high up on the butt section of the rod. So this means that you have a lot less slack between your hand and the first stripper guide when you're high sticking. Some of the things that we don't necessarily like about the rod is that it doesn't have a fighting butt. Now, some anglers prefer having a fighting butt like I do, but others don't. If you do prefer having a fighting butt and you're fishing the 10-foot 3-weight or larger rods in the range, you could unscrew this butt cap. Now, on this 2-weight version, you can't unscrew it, but on the 3-weight and up, you can unscrew that, and then you buy the competition kit, which includes a fighting butt, and it also includes counterweights so that you can balance your rig more effectively. Now this competition kit I believe sells for around $75, so just remember that. The other thing that I don't necessarily like about the rod is that it only has a single locking ring. Now, most of these rods actually only have a single locking ring, but it's something that I like is to have 2 locking rings because it just secures your reel so much better. Echo also makes 2 other Euro nymphing rods that could suit your budget for the better or the worse. This Shadow 2 fits right in the middle, and the Carbon XL is their cheapest offering, I believe selling for around $199, so that might suit your budget a lot better if you have a limited budget. If you're looking for something a little bit more fancy or high performing, the Shadow X is a great option, and that sells for around $460. Another rod that one of my peers here at Into Fly Fishing fished quite extensively is the Redington Strike 10-foot 6-inch 3-weight. One comment that he made in his review, and which I agree 100% with, is that the Redington Strike is a great rod for the angler looking to probe into the world of Euro nymphing, but also would like to do other styles of fishing with the rod. What we like about the Redington Strike is that it comes with a tube, but unfortunately no sock. The blank has a matte black finish, which helps to reduce rod flash on the water. We also like the small fighting butt and the down-locking reel seat. The extended grip on the Redington Strike is a very interesting concept, and I think it's one of those things that you're either going to really love or really hate about the rod. What it does is it's a much longer grip, so it gives your hand a couple of holding options, so you're able to balance your rig a lot better. What we don't necessarily like about the rod is that the first stripper guide is placed on the second section of the rod, on the model at least we tested, so that creates a lot of slack between your hand and the first stripper guide, so it just makes managing line a lot harder with your left hand or your line managing hand. The other thing that we didn't like is that the rod really feels quite heavy. One of the latest rods we've reviewed is this, the Vision Nymphmaniac 10-foot 3-weight, and it's already one of our favorites. I think it really performs excellently, and it's such great value if you consider this rod costs less than $400. It's a rod developed in tandem with some of Europe's best competition anglers, so you know you're getting something very finely tuned to Euro nymphing. I've yet to meet an angler that doesn't like them, and the anglers who own one really don't let them go that easily. Our favorite feature about the Vision Nymphmaniac are firstly and most importantly this blank. It really has an incredible action, medium fast, but it is complemented with an excellent recovery rate. So that means it gives you confidence to make those tricky casts. The rod also has a matte carbon finish which reduces rod glare out on the water, so it enables you to fish quite close to fish without spooking them on bright and sunny days. A really neat feature which is unique to the Vision Nymphmaniac is the measurement guides. The first guide is here on the grip, and it measures 20 centimeters from the butt section or the butt of the rod. The second one is 30 centimeters, 40 centimeters and 50 centimeters. So that gives you and enables you to quickly measure the fish or gauge their size. Another neat feature is that the line guide just before the tip top is a snake guide. All the other line guides are single foot guides. So what this snake guide does is it helps that the connection between your fly line and your leader passes through without any problems. Some of the features that we wish this rod came with is firstly a fighting butt. The 10-foot 308 version doesn't have a fighting butt, but I believe the only rod in this range that comes with a fighting butt is the 11-foot 3-weight, which has a green EVA foam fighting butt. Also, this up-locking reel seat only has a single locking ring. I wish there were two. The other thing is I wish that the rod came with its sock. So it only comes in a tube with dividers, and because this tube is a lot thinner than standard tube sizes, sometimes it does feel that the sections get stuck in it. Vision has 3 Euro nymphing rod models in their repertoire. Firstly, the Nymphmaniac is once again slap bang in the middle of the range regarding price point. If you're looking at something more budget friendly, the Euro range is really good. Great rod at a really affordable price. If you want something really, really nice and you're willing to pay close to $1,000, they make the XO Graphene. So as the name suggests, this rod is built with graphene impregnated resin, so it really improves the strength and the recovery rate. We love all Moonshine Fly Rods because we feel that they hit that sweet spot between affordability and quality. To round things off, they back that with excellent after-sales service. I once broke a section on this rod, the 10-foot 6-inch 3-weight, and I had a brand new section in less than a week. And remember, that's all the way from the States to South Africa. The 10-foot 6-inch Vesper is an absolute beast of a Euro nymphing rod. I don't think it's as delicate as, let's say, the Vision we just spoke about, but I think that's due to this extra length that it has. Here are the things that we love about the Moonshine Vesper. It has a decent fighting butt, which really gives you support and gives you comfort while you high stick. It also has a down locking reel seat, which helps to balance your rig when you're high sticking. It has a matte grey finish which reduces rod glare on the water, and probably one of the best things about any Moonshine rod is that you get 2 tip sections included when you buy it. Now this is really a game changer, because if you break one, your day isn't over. You can just simply keep fishing while that other section is replaced. This really makes so much sense to me. The rod comes shipped in a solid cordial covered tube, and inside you'll find a 5 compartment rod sock, one for each section of the rod, including the spare rod tip. The Vesper series of rods always have excellent recovery rate, and this Euro nymphing model is no different. A really great feature is that the first stripper guide is placed almost a third of the way down on the butt section. This is by far the best placement out of all of the Euro nymphing rods we have, and this really helps to reduce the line sag between your hand that is pinching your fly line, or controlling the fly line, and this first stripper guide. What I don't really like about this specific model, the 10-foot 6-inch 3-weight, is that I feel the grip is slightly too chunky, and I think this chunky grip will probably suit anglers with bigger hands, but what it does is it takes a lot away from the sensitivity of this great blank, because I really think this blank is really great. But when you fish the rod, because the grip is so large, it really feels that you're fishing a really large rod, like a 6-weight. So I think that takes away some of the sensitivity. Another thing is that I wish we had 2 locking rings, once again, on this down locking reel seat. The Vesper comes in at around $499, which I think is really great value, because the rod really feels and seems to be a lot more expensive. If that is too much money, I would consider their dedicated Euro nymphing range, which is called the Epiphany. These sell for around $300, $280 around there, and that is a dedicated Euro nymphing range. My personal favorite in that range is the 10-foot 4-inch 2-weight. Now a very interesting rod is this, the Snowbee Prestige GXS 10-foot 2-weight. I must be blatantly honest, when I removed the rod from the rod sock and I saw these classic looks, the silver trim, all of these old school looks, it reminded me of a very traditional 7-foot 3-weight or something. But after fishing it for some time on the water, I really fell in love with it. It is really well balanced, composed, and it does everything that a small stream angler would want it to do. Because of its length, it Euro nymphs well, but it also dry fly casts like a dream, especially with a supple fly line. Things that I really like about this rod is firstly this fully tapered grip. I know that it seems quite unconventional, but what it allows you to do is really position your finger right on the blank, which gives you a lot more feeling. The rod also comes with the rod sock and a solid cordial covered tube. The medium fast action on this 10-foot 2-weight version is really a treat to fish. Things that I don't necessarily like about the rod is this metallic finish, which just causes a lot more flash on the water. I also think that the core quality could have been a lot better if you're thinking you're paying more than $650 or around $650 for the rod. I also wish that the reel seat had 2 locking rings and then that there was a fighting butt. The Snowbee Prestige GXS certainly isn't a cheap rod, but if you're looking for a more affordable Snowbee alternative, the Diamond 2 10-foot 3-weight is a great option. One of the rods that we were most excited to fish was this, the Thomas & Thomas Contact 2. And although this is a prototype of the Contact 2, it really is a sick rod. It reminds me a lot of the Vision Nymphmaniac, in the sense that once you pick it up and you start fishing, you actually forget about it, and it really just does what you want it to do. I reviewed the 10-foot 3-weight version and absolutely loved it. Currently there are 6 rods in the Contact 2 range, from a 10-foot 2-weight to a 10-foot 8-inch 6-weight, which you can probably use to lift a car with. Things we liked about the Contact 2 is that it has a small yet functional fighting butt, which really makes it comfortable while you're high sticking. The prototype we fished with comes with a up-locking reel seat, but on the newer models you have the option between an up-locking or a down-locking version. The grip is made from really high-grade cork, and it really has a great shape. And all the stripping guides are recoil stripping guides, which once they deform, they just bounce back to the original shape, making the rod a lot more durable. The first stripper guide on the production model of the Contact 2 is placed on the butt section of the rod, which once again reduces line sag between that guide and your grip hand. The rod is really well balanced and the blank has an incredible recovery rate. The rod is shipped in a rod sock and an aluminum tube. There are really only two things that I don't like about the Contact 2. The first is the price, currently selling for around $850. It certainly isn't cheap, but as far as premium fly rods go, it's actually good value for money. The second point, which is really serious, is that I don't have one in my personal arsenal. If you're in the market for a Euro nymphing rod and you love Thomas & Thomas, this rod I can absolutely recommend. Now, our seventh favorite rod is the Sage ESN. Now, before we talk about the rod, I just want to point out that this is my personal own rod, one that I bought with my own money, and this is the 10-foot 5 weight. I bought it for larger rivers and larger fish. Now, this is actually the older model, the original Sage ESN that was built on the Sage's kinetic technology. The newer rods will probably be built on the Sage Kinetic HD material, so it would probably be the Sage ESN HD. I've fished both of these and can really say that the new model built on the Kinetic HD technology is that tad better. What I like about the Sage ESN, as with most things Sage, the rod is really light and you really notice that when you pick the rod up. For most rod weights, there's a rod model with a fighting butt and without a fighting butt available. One thing that always impresses me about this rod is the quality of the cork. Even though it's so old, this is the original ESN and I've had it for so many years and fished it very hard. This cork is absolutely perfect. It's really on another level. What I don't really like about the ESN is firstly the price. Just under $1,000, it's really way up there. The other thing is that it only has a single locking ring, even on the new models. Now, before we wrap up this video, I just want to share my thoughts on what makes a great Euro nymphing rod. I haven't tested all the rods out there in the world, and you probably have another rod in mind. So if you just take these pointers that I'm going to give you and measure the rod that you are thinking about getting, just measure them against that and see what of these points would be of importance to you or not. This might help you make a better decision, helping you to buy the right rod suited to your applications. Well, the first thing to take into consideration is price. Some rods are affordable, some rods are expensive, but you can't really compare these rods 100% against each other. So firstly, decide what your budget is and stick to that. If you have an open credit card, you're in the pound seats, but if you don't and you have a strict budget, don't dismay. There are good options out there. We just need to understand where we could compromise and where not. And this is where these other points are going to help you out. The characteristic action and recovery rate of a rod is mostly determined by the blank. That's why I always say the blank is the heart and soul of the rod. Unfortunately, in most cases, not necessarily all of the cases, you get what you pay for. What we're looking for in a good Euro nymphing rod is a rod that is able to load with little to no fly line out of the rod tip. So just the weight of the rod tip as you go down and you stop, the weight of the rod tip that loads it, a little bit of leader material, so 20 feet of monofilament, and 2 very light flies. That is all it has to load. So a great Euro nymphing rod has the ability to load with little to no fly line out of the rod tip. And what we're also looking for is once you go forward and you stop, you want the rod to bounce down and up as you deliver the fly, but it shouldn't keep oscillating. That is what we call recovery rate. So the better the recovery rate, the more efficient your cast will be and the more accurate your cast will be. Now let's talk about length. Technically, Euro nymphing is what we call tight line nymphing. So to be able to tight line nymph, you don't technically need a long rod. You just need a rod that is able to detect takes and you're able to just stay in contact with your flies. So technically, if there's a good angler, you can probably Euro nymph with a 7-foot 3 weight. However, fishing with a short rod like that, you'll soon run into some problems with reach and drag. So you won't be able to reach over boulders or quite far and stay in contact, and you won't be able to manage drag and let your flies drift as natural as possible. Choose a 9-foot 6-inch or a 10-foot rod for small to medium rivers, and a 10-foot 6-inch rod or even longer for larger rivers. Now for the fighting butt, in my opinion it makes a big difference for the comfort, especially over a long day. So I tend to choose a rod that has a small fighting butt, just props up against your arm while you're high sticking. Now the question on the reel seat configuration. You'll see that most of the modern Euro nymphing rods have down locking reel seats, as this Moonshine Vesper has. So the purpose of that is just to position the weight of the reel as far back as possible. So what that does is it just balances your rig a lot better, seeing that you're having to deal with a much longer rod. One thing that I've noticed on all of the really excellent Euro nymphing rods is that they all have very fine or very nicely tapered grips. This does a great job at translating a lot of the feel and information from your rod blank back into your hand. And this is absolutely key in Euro nymphing. An important aspect to take into consideration on a Euro nymphing rod is guide positioning. One of the main reasons why anglers struggle to detect takes, or for that matter after they've seen a take happening, they actually miss the fish, is because of slack. Now slack is introduced all along the entire path from the bottom fly, through the leader, through the tip of your fly rod, through all the line guides up to your hand where you pinch the line. One way to mitigate this is to reduce the line slack through all the line guides. So what the manufacturers do is they actually add more line guides on a Euro nymphing rod, and they place the first stripper guide on the butt section of the rod, reducing the line slack between the first stripper guide and your hand. In most cases, Euro nymphing happens at close quarters. In other words, your casts are generally less than 20 feet long, so you're targeting fish very close to you. And that means that the fish are able to probably detect you a lot better than you would make a 40 feet cast to them. A rod with less shine and flashiness to it will reflect a lot less light, so there would be a smaller chance of you spooking the fish before you even get to cast to it. I hope that you found this video on our 7 favorite Euro nymphing rods helpful and insightful. If you own any of these rods, I would love to hear your thoughts. Please leave them in the comments section down below. The opinions expressed in this video are just that, opinions, and they could differ from yours. Also, please consider subscribing to our channel and turning on the notifications. Then we can let you know as soon as we release any future videos, tutorials, or vlogs. Also, please go and like us on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time, cheers.